And I won't bore you with the entire story, but the most important detail is that it culminated here in this building. We, as in the UU congregation of Wyoming Valley, were worshiping at the Montessori School in Kingston, when Isaac and I first arrived here in Northeast Pennsylvania. A few years after joining this congregation, we purchased this building. We did some repairs and renovations, put all of these chairs together, and turned this place into a religious home. We began worshiping here on Sunday mornings. On our official building dedication Sunday, we asked the Reverend Dr. Richard Speck, who was the district executive for the former Joseph Priestley district of the UUA, to come and preach. That Sunday, he preached about our, at the time, first principle of Unitarian Universalism, which calls us to covenant and affirm the worth and dignity of every person. As a person who grew up in a home and a community that did not affirm my worth and dignity, and in fact worked against it all of the time, I decided that I would answer the call to ministry so that I could help embody those 7 principles of our faith, especially the first one. I have seen myself grow in a multitude of ways as a person since becoming a UU, and even more since becoming a minister. And what I love about this Unitarian Universalist living tradition is that we, as an association of congregations, are also open to changing and growing as we learn more about humanity and the world. The founders of our faith knew that change is necessary for growth, so they wrote into our UUA bylaws that we are required to reevaluate Article 2 every 15 years. Article 2 is where our most fundamental declarations of who we are, you may know them as the 7 principles and 6 sources. This is where they live in our bylaws. It's called Article 2. This reevaluation will help us to remain relevant in an always changing society while allowing us to grow and change as well. In 1961, the Unitarians and Universalists merged for a multitude of reasons. The real reason, no matter what anybody tells you, is because Unitarians had people and Universalists had money, but I digress. In that merger, they created the 6 principles, which we heard earlier. These principles were filled with both Christian and patriarchal language. At the time, this was a Christian faith, and it was very patriarchal. And in 1982, the Federation of UU Women said, enough is enough. They changed our movement in ways that were important for the success of women leaders. These changes at the time brought fierce dissent, but more, they inspired excitement and possibility. And today I'm happy to report that over 56% of UU ministers are women or gender non-binary. Since 1985, our bylaws and principles have been revised several times to make necessary changes to become more inclusive as we watch culture grow and shift. Just a few months ago at the 2024 General Assembly, the gathered body of delegates from member congregations voted to adopt a revision to Article 2, which changes how our principles and purposes look like they do today and what they profess about our faith. I loved our former 7 principles. I won't go into the semantics, and 6 sources as much as the next person, but they were largely aspirational. Let's have justice and peace and equity for every person. Let's build a world of democracy. Our new value statements, lovingly referred to by many as Jet Pig, profess to the world how we intend to exist as humans in covenant and accountable relationship to and with one another. There is also a new preamble to our new value statements that again points us to the ongoing change that is necessary for our growth and relevance in the world. The new Article 2 now opens with the text. Unitarian Universalism draws from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. We covenant, congregation to congregation, and through our association to support and assist one another in our ministries. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. The values we share include all of the following, which we hold as inseparable and deeply interconnected: justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. You see, we as Unitarian Universalists, as holy, broken, and magical human beings, we have the opportunity to share with the world how we have grown and how we have changed and adapted to life as it grows and changes. And it is indeed an exciting time for us and our faith. Can you see the jet pig? It also comes with a visual of a little pig with a jetpack on it. But I didn't make that a slide. You can look it up on the internet. My in-laws, Isaac's birth family, are very Catholic. They have based their lives in a faith that has a doctrine and dogma that was decreed in the year 450, and it hasn't changed. A faith that believes they have the truth as it was revealed by Jesus and decreed by a king over 1,000 years ago, and that it cannot change and must remain the same. I was recently talking to his parents about what was going to take place at our General Assembly this summer, and his mom told me that it makes our religion cheap because we can just make up new rules anytime we want. And then I told her there weren't any rules, and she didn't love that. But what is ironic is that I believe that the freedom to change and grow is the very thing that makes our faith so unique and so wonderful. Our founders knew enough in 1961 to realize that this faith must be poised to learn and grow into the future. They wanted to ensure that we re-examine the words we use to declare who we are and who we are as a faith to this world. I don't know any other religion that regularly updates their most fundamental statements of identity. When Isaac's mom once asked me in a different conversation to explain Unitarian Universalism to her, I explained briefly that our faith comes out of Luther and the Protestant Reformation, and that over time we have developed our own principles and purposes to declare who we are. And so she looked at me and said, "Oh, so it's like watered down Christianity." You can laugh. It's okay. You can laugh. But I was angry. I was fuming because I have given my life to this faith, right? I have become a minister in this faith, in this tradition, and I believe in this faith. And they still do all that they can to save us from hell. And they don't really recognize that we have a real faith. And so my anger was palpable, but we as individuals can only speak our own truth. And the truth that Marlene knows is a truth that she has been fed from her Catholic upbringing for her entire life. Each of us move through life with our own thoughts and our own feelings and our own ways of existing in the world, and the way we each understand the nature of truth in different ways, writes the Reverend Christian Schmidt. For Isaac's parents and siblings, truth was something that had already been revealed in Scripture, in person, in sacraments. While the Bible may be retranslated, the creed re-articulated for more modern audiences, they themselves remain the same. They can be understood in new ways, and that the truth within them can be applied to new situations to achieve a deeper understanding of that truth. But according to Orthodox Christianity, truth and God don't change. They're cornerstones. They are solid. They are the only constants that can be depended on in a changing, chaotic world, which is what Isaac's family would believe. Our Unitarian Universalist tradition defines the nature of truth differently, Schmidt continues. Our faith has long recognized the wisdom and truths available in sacred writings, in traditions and customs, in the lives of prophets and sages. We encourage people to seek truth wherever they may find it. But in our tradition, God, if God exists, learns and evolves. Truth is not static, and revelation is not sealed. We are free to seek after not only deeper truth, but entirely new truths. We can embrace the truth that even our most dependable constants, the sunrise and the sunset, The phases of the moon and the turning of the tides are, in fact, finite. They will come to an end when our solar system dies. And we can embrace the truth that the building blocks of this solar system may eventually be remade into a new solar system with new planets and new sunrises and new sunsets and new tides and moon phases and new creatures to appreciate them. For a tradition that understands truth as something that can evolve and change, it should come as no surprise that the things we say we believe in, our principles, have evolved and changed over the years too. Back in the 1800s, the Unitarians would periodically release statements of the most commonly believed things among us. These statements would be written up by a respected minister and voted on at Unitarian conferences. Unlike a creed which does not change, our UU principles are written and rewritten through the generations because ours is a living, breathing tradition that embodies not only deeper truth, but new truths. Ours is a faith that grows and changes and involves and evolves, and that encourages all of us to also do the same. So I'm wondering, what is it in life that inspires you to change? What firmly held beliefs have you had in your life that have grown and shifted over time as you have grown and shifted over time? Have you grown in ways that help you become the best version of yourself? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Because life is not linear. Sometimes new truths are hard to take in. Sometimes relationships are tested and we are too angry to be the best version of ourselves. And hell, sometimes you discover when you get home that your takeout order is wrong and you are mad. It is because we are humans. We are fallible, broken, magical humans. And how amazing is it that because we have the ability to change each day, each moment, we have the choice to begin again in love. In her Sunday sermon at our 2024 General Assembly, the Reverend Molly Hausch Gordon declares that our great grand forefather, the Reverend William Ellery Channing, told us that we should grow in likeness to God. Really, that was the Unitarian good news, that we could grow in likeness to God, could become less messy, more divine, leave bad behind for good, make our way up to the shining hill, no mistakes. But hills keep rolling on, high to low, and messing up is how we grow, and growing never ends. And no matter the language you use for the ultimate, perhaps you've been left with just that likeness, just that purity, just that choice, perfection or damnation. And are you exhausted from just climbing the hill? Because maybe you're afraid that they're on to you, your congregation, your friends, your colleagues, or your people, that they know you haven't got it all right just yet, that there's still some greed in you or some confusion or some fear. Maybe you're afraid that you haven't got it all right yet, and that makes you all wrong. And maybe you've even tried to slice yourself out of the web of our wholly connected existence sometimes because nobody told you that you could just keep growing, because nobody ever taught you how to mend. We are at each other's mercy, and not all of us are merciful. Our interdependence sustains us, and because it sustains us, it also makes us vulnerable to one another. There is no outright safety to be had in the web of life. There never was. It is dangerous to be so tangled up, and it aches. And the call of our faith is to respond to these tangled realities all at once: the sustenance and the danger, the holding and the teetering, the beauty and the pain. We really don't like to feel that second part, though, do we? Sometimes we try to slash and hack away at the web to avoid that second part. Don't. You must stay in. You must stay woven to this community, to this world, to those who need you. Everything depends on all of us staying woven in, on us each learning to mend. Everything depends, and any separation we might win would be an illusion anyhow. Our entanglement comes from living in a universe of bouncing atoms and growing life and exploding stars. We cannot escape it if we try, and we harm it when we try. So what if instead we hold on tighter to each other, and so embraced, we learn to abide? We weave all of life whole. What if we turn back to each other and refuse to turn away, even when it is hard, even in November? What if we tangle our fingers up together on purpose and cup this delicate web in our hands and tenderly mend every tear? And what if our heartbreak is the needle that will sew us back together? And yes, we are heartbroken together, and there we find our power, where we already know that love and loss are intertwined. And because we've accepted the tender truth of our aching, dangerous, sustaining connection, the power of our care cannot be stopped. We, Unitarian Universalists, know the whole woven web, joy and sorrow, hope and despair. And at our best, we are rooted in it, and we are sustained by it. And there is nothing woven that we need to fear, because we are learning to mend, because we are willing to cry and rage together and dance and rejoice together. And with the strong threaded needle of our heartbreak and our care, we are present to all of it together. And that is where our power lies. And depending on each other. Yes, preach the good word, friend. Depending on each other and knowing we depend on each other. This is the hope of our faith. My in-laws will never accept our faith. They are regularly trying to save us from a life damned to hell because their truth is too narrow. Their truth is not allowed to weave and mend, to open and breathe, to grow and change, to allow other truths to be possible. So as we move through this change in our faith, as we grow in ourselves and deepen our intertwined connection with community, may we always remain people with open mind, loving hearts, and helping hands. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time that we lead ourselves into the well. It is time, and what a chance to be alive. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning, we shall learn to lead in love. We change this faith, and this faith changes us. May it be so, and may we be the ones to make it so.